Hi class, this is going to be our first lab using remote instruction. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect to ACE-IT Labs. Make sure that you type www.aceitlab.com, and then I'm going to sign in. I created an account just for this class. Use the standard password that we've been using all along in class. So if I have any lab currently, I'm going to need to deactivate it. I don't currently. I graded your midterms, so you should be able to go on the second machine and look at the file called outfile.txt. That will have the results of your midterm grade. Once you've examined that file, deactivate that lab and delete it. Now we're going to use a new lab for the rest of the class. From the drop-down box, I'm going to choose Red Hat Networking Lab and copy to my labs. And then I'm going to activate it. I'm going to scroll down and boot up both machines. I'm going to go to console for the Red Hat Server 1 and wait for it to boot. Click on Student and sign in with our standard password. I'm going to go to Activity and launch the terminal. I'm just going to make the font a little bigger so everyone can see it. Right now, there's not a lot I can do as student, so I'm going to sign in as root. SU space hyphen, the hyphen's important. So in this lab, we're going to set up the IP addresses and the host names for both computers. Currently, my host name is localhost.localdomain, and my IP address I can get to by typing IP adder. And currently, I have a loopback device, my actual network card, our virtual bridge, and a virtual bridge NIC. What we're going to be dealing with is this network card ENS5. Most environments it's going to be called ET80, but in this environment on ACE it's called ENS5. That's the driver we're using to connect to the network. A lot of people just type IP adder and gets the same results. I don't need to type out the full IP address. If I want to look at my routing table, I can type IP route to see my routing table. Now, I could go to each device and manually configure an IP address. But right now, a lot of times we don't want to actually mess with the device. What we want to do is set up profiles. Kind of like in Windows, if you go to, you have a wireless card and at home, you connect to your network at home and it gets one IP, and when you take it to work, you get a signal from work and it has a different IP. It's the same network card, but two different profiles. We're going to do the same thing, so we're not going to actually configure the IP settings directly on the network device. We're going to actually create a profile and associate that profile with the device. So if I want to see my current profiles, I can do NMCLI. That stands for Network Manager Command Line Interface. And then I could look at connections. That's a profile. I could actually type out connection, then show. Or I can type NMCLI con show and get the same result. I don't really need to type out the full word. I just really need to just type out the unique part of the word. If I wanted to look at devices, I could do NMCLI device show. I'm going to hit Q to quit. So with NMCLI, that stands for Network Manager Command Line Interface, I'm going to be using that utility to manage all my network connections. So I don't want to have to manually edit the files. The files on an Ubuntu box are going to be different. The networking files for an Ubuntu box are going to be different than the networking files on a Red Hat box. By using NMCLI, we don't really need to know what files we're going to alter. I do know because I have a lot of experience with this, but you don't really need to know which files you're altering. So here I'm looking at an actual device. Here I'm looking at a profile. And right now I only have one profile for that virtual bridge should I want to host virtual machines on this lab. Give me 1 second while I pause this machine. Sorry, someone was walking outside the door and I was making noise. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is create a new connection. NMCLI connection add. So instead of doing a show, I want to add a connection. The connection name is going to be ENS5. I'm going to stick to the same name of the device. In the book, they want you to call it static. I don't really care what name you give it. It's going to be type Ethernet. I think as opposed to a bridge, it's going to be an Ethernet card. I'm going to associate this connection with the physical device called ENS5 as well. I'm going to give it, guys, I'm not pressing any enter key or anything. It's just going to do a word wrap because the command is so long. IPv4 address. Again, I didn't press enter. It just wrapped to the following line. It's IPv4. No. I'm sorry. It's not IPv4. It's IP4 space. Again, no enter key. So 10.0.0.2/24. That's going to be my IP address and subnet mask. So that's IP4 space 10.0.0.2/24. Again, no enter key. The gateway will be GW4 10.0.0.1 IPv4.DNS. These are going to be my DNS servers. 10.13.2.5, 10.13.2.7. And auto connect. Yes. So basically, when this network interface, when this machine boots up, I want to auto connect to this network. If I have multiple profiles, I only want one to be auto connect. So I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to show you what file we actually edited. So cat etc sysconfig network hyphen scripts ifcfg-ens5. That name right there after this is going to be based on this connection name. So when I ran this command, it created this file for me. You could have manually created this file, but it's a lot of typing. It's better to use this command to create the file than you do it manually. So I'm going to show you the file. What type is it? Ethernet. There's my IP address. There's my subnet mask. There's my gateway. There's my 2 DNS servers. On boot equals yes, meaning that this is going to connect automatically. The device that I chose, the interface I associated this profile with is ENS5. So all the information I added here is added to this file. Ubuntu doesn't use this file. They use a different file with a different naming structure. So again, by using this command, I don't really need to be concerned with the actual file that I'm editing. So I'm going to do nmcli connection show. And there's my connection. Sometimes if that connection was white as opposed to green like it is now, I might need to bring it up, meaning I might need to activate that profile. So I could do nmcli connection up ENS5. It's already up, but I'm just showing you how to do it. Now I'm going to run IP adder, and I can see I've assigned a static IP address to this ENS5 interface. This is actually showing me interfaces or connections. In this case, it's showing me a connection because that's what I created. I didn't statically configure the interface itself. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is set the computer name. So I have a command called hostname that allows me to see the computer name. And so what I'm going to do is run a command called hostname control. And then if I just hit that alone, it shows me everything about my host. The command I ran again is hostname control. Right there is the command. And it shows me my host name, what type of computer it is. It's a virtual machine. It shows me my GUID, my boot ID that I'm booting to. It's showing me that it's on a virtual server like Hyper-V, but this one is KVM. And it's running Red Hat 8, and there's the kernel that I'm running. So now I'm going to run a command called hostname control set. Let me move my mouse out of the way. Hostname, and I'm going to use vm1.linux.com. So I've just set the hostname. Now I'm going to do a hostname control, and just look at it. The book has you put an @ symbol there. You don't get the results that you want if you put an @ symbol there. Put a dot there. The book has you put an @ symbol, but it shows you this results. If you put an @ symbol, it's going to look different. So to get the results that the book has, use the dot, not the @ symbol. The next thing I want to do is, a lot of services depend on the host name. So if you set the host name, you need to resolve that host name to an IP. So we need to do that before we reboot. If it can't resolve that host name to an IP, at that point, it might not be able to boot properly, or it might take a long time to boot. I forgot something before I go on to that next task. I want to show you what file we just edited with that command, hostname control set hostname vm1.linux.com. So I'm going to cat etsy hostname to show you what we just did. So all we really did by running this command right here is edited this file and added that to the file. So before DNS, everyone used something called host files to resolve names to IPs. You have them in Windows, you have them on Macs, you have them in Linux. So before, on a Linux box, before your machine uses DNS to resolve a name, it looks in the host file. So that's the file we're going to use to resolve vm1.linux.com to an IP address. So when someone types in vm1.linux.com on this machine, it'll know the IP address for this machine. So I'm going to edit using vi etsy host. I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to go to the very bottom. Guys, this is 2 lines. Let me zoom out so you can see that it's 2 lines. See, it's 2 lines. So I'm going to go to the very bottom of the file. I'm going to press a lowercase a to go into insert mode below my current line. Sometimes, guys, when you boot up your machine, you have an issue with the network. So we never want to resolve it to the actual IP address because that network interface might be down. But our loopback interface is never down. So we're going to use the loopback address. So when our computer needs to refers to the vm1.linux.com, it's going to refer back to the loopback address. Currently, localhost.local domain is being resolved to the loopback address. So we're going to do the same thing with our new name. Incidentally, never remove these 2 lines. They're always good to have. Sometimes some services refer to localhost as opposed to the actual name of the machine, and you want to be able to resolve localhost to the loopback as well. This is the IPv4 loopback. This is the IPv6 loopback. So what we're going to do is type in 127.0.0.1 tab vm1.localhost linux.com space vm1. So we're going to resolve the fully qualified domain name, the long name, and the short name to the loopback address. I'm going to do the same thing for IPv6. vm1.linux.com space vm1. So I'm resolving vm1, the long name, vm1.linux.com to the loopback, the IPv6 loopback, and vm1, the short name, to the IPv6 loopback. Now I'm going to press escape to get out of insert mode and press :WQ to save and exit my work. So we set the IP address up and we set the host name up. So now I'm going to reboot the machine. After you set your host name, it's always smart to reboot. So I'm going to sign in as student. And I can see there's my host name that I set. Now I'm going to sign in as root. I'm going to clear my screen. Okay, so what we're going to do now is double check everything. If I type IP adder, I can see I have an IP address. I'm going to ping 8.8.8.8. In Linux, the ping just keeps going, so you have to press Control-C to stop it. So I can see that I can connect to the internet. That's a Google IP. Now, if I try to use a utility like dig to resolve a host name to an IP to test name resolution, and I type vm1.linux.com, it doesn't work because these utilities are only used to test DNS. They're not used to test a local host name. If I use this other command to test DNS, host vm1.linux.com, it again is going to test DNS. It doesn't test the local host file. If I wanted to, I could use this to test like www.google.com. And this will work. Same way with dig. So host and dig are used to test DNS. Ping is used to test connectivity. So these are common commands that you want to use to diagnose issues. Ping, host, dig. If I do IP adder, I can see my IP address. Right there it is for ENS5. I can do IP route to look at my gateway. There I can see I have a default gateway of 10.0.0.1. That was in that command nm CLI command that we ran. So I can see that everything is working. But if you want to test your host file to see if you're resolving that name to an IP, type get ent host plural, and it will actually show you your Etsy host file content. And there you can see that I'm resolving that name to an IP address. I'm not sure why it's showing up twice, but it is. Because in the file Etsy host, I only have it listed once. So ping is used to test connectivity. Host is used to resolve names, test name resolution. Dig is used to resolve, it's a test name resolution. So I'm going to try to ping by short name. Because ping, when I type ping in the name, it's going to try to resolve that name to an IP. It's going to first look in the Etsy host. If it doesn't find an answer, it then contacts the DNS server. So I can ping by short name. I'm going to ping by long name now. It's actually using the IPv6 address. So keep in mind that if this fails and I'm trying to test something with ping, I don't know if name resolution failed or if connectivity failed. So try to avoid pinging by name, because if it doesn't work, you don't know where the problem is. Is it I can't resolve the name, or is it I have no connectivity? So, guys, this machine is fully set up. I'm going to jump over to server 2 and set up the IP for that machine. I'm going to drag up to be able to sign in. Click on student. Open up a command prompt. I'm going to sign in as root. I type IP adder. I can see I don't have an IP address for ENS. In this case, it's ENS 8. So run IP adder before you configure anything so you know what network card you're dealing with. So in this machine, it's ENS 8. So what we're going to do is start configuring the IP settings. NM CLI connection. Oh, let's look at the connection first. So right now I only have that bridge connection. So I'm going to create a new connection and associate it with that physical device. NM CLI connection add. Connection name is ENS 8. I could give it any name that I want. Once I associate this connection to that device, it will either show me the connection or the device, whatever controls it. So right now, it's showing me the device. When I'm done, it's going to be showing me the connection. That has the same name. The interface name is ENS 8. The type is Ethernet. The gateway. Now, guys, I'm just trying to show you that I can mix the order of the command up. So I'm not typing the same exact command as before. I'm kind of putting it in a different order to let you know that there's no particular order that needs to be done in. IPv4 0.0.3/24. That's the next available IP address. IPv4.DNS. Our two DNS servers are 10.13.2.5, 10.13.2.7. Again, there's no space in this comma. And then I want to auto connect. Yes. So every time I boot up this machine, this connection automatically assigns that IP address to that interface. Hit enter. I'm going to go look at it just to verify that it is actually up and running. NM CLI connection show. I can see that it's up because it's green. Just to be sure, I could do NM MN CLI connection up ENS 8, and that'll bring it up. If I wanted to, I could do NM CLI connection down to bring the interface down. NM CLI connection show. I can see that it's down. If I wanted to bring it back up, so if for some reason you wanted to disable your NIC temporarily, just bring it down. So IP adder, I can see I have an IP address. IP route, I can see I have a default gateway 10.0.0.1 is my default gateway. I have a problem. I actually have two IP addresses. This happens sometimes. I'm going to show you. I'm going to do IP config So that used to be the old command, guys. Sorry I keep typing it. IP adder, and I can see that I have 2 IP addresses. Now if I do NMCLI connection show, and then I type the device name, it shows me a lot more information. Instead of just giving me an abbreviated list of the connections, it's going to actually show me a lot of information about this connection. So I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit enter again. I'm looking for my IP addresses. It has this IPv4 address here. So what it's doing is it's giving me 2 IP addresses. One dynamic and one static. This is a dynamic IP I'm getting from the school's network and a static one. I'm going to do cat etc sysconfig network -scripts ENS8. I'm going to go back up to the command I ran. You see how I put this in here? And this auto connect says yes. But for some reason, if you put the gateway in before the IP address, it doesn't fix this. On the old machine, I'm going to jump back to Red Hat Server 1. I'm going to sign in. I'm going to cat etc sysconfig / network -scripts /ifcfg-ens5. Do you see how this is boot proto equal none? That means it's going to be no dynamic IP. It's going to be static. But I'm kind of glad this happened. There's a glitch with this command. If you don't do it, if you put the gateway before the IP address or you put the DNS server before the IP address, you get this weird result where it shows the boot proto equals DHCP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this connection. NMCLI connection adds a connection. NMCLI connection up brings a connection up. NMCLI connection down will bring it down. So what do you think NMCLI connection mod will do? It will modify that connection. So the name is ENS8. I want to set the method to none. Give me 1 second. I can't remember how I refer to the... Oh, I know why. I don't need to put the word name. Just NMCLI connection mod, then the connection name, and what you want to change. So now I'm going to cat this file. So I changed the method to be none. Before, the method was saying DHCP. By changing it to none, it's going to make boot proto equal none in this file. So I'm going to cat the file to show you. It's still not working. Give me 1 second to research this. Okay, guys, I need to put IPv4.method. No, that's not working either. Give me 1 second again. Okay. there's what we need to do. Set the method to manual as opposed to none. I think I can also do the word static. That will work as well. So when I go into this file, the boot proto is now set to none. So I just want to go over this again. If you run this command and you still get a dynamic IP along with the IP that you assigned, make sure that you look at this file, cat etc sysconfig network-scripts ifcfg-ens8, and make sure the boot proto doesn't say DHCP. If it does say DHCP, run this command right here. Or, when you're doing this command, if you want to ensure, I could have done this. I'm going to erase this connection. So del ENS8, guess what that does? It deletes. So NMCLI connection, so I deleted that connection. So I'm going to go back up, choose that connection again. So here's my command where I added the connection. If I wanted to guarantee all the time, I could do IPv4.method equal or space manual. And this way it'll always be set to static. And I don't have to worry about any issues caused by this command. See, now it says none. That's because I've added this. This changes this. This changes this. This changes these two lines. This one and this one. IPv4 DNS changes these two lines. Interface name is the name of the file, and it's right here. Type Ethernet. Interface name is the actual device. That's right here, device. So all we're really doing is editing this file. Guys, in past semesters, before I started using this command, before this command even existed, I just made my students come and manually create this file. That was the way we did it. You know, but there's too many different systems, each creating different networking files, so it's easier to use NMCLI, then you don't need to worry about which system you're on. You'll always get the same results. NMCLI will edit the appropriate file in the background, depending on what system you're at. So the next thing we're going to do is assign my hostname. So current hostname is localhost.local domain. The next thing we need to do, guys, and I'm just going to do an IP adder just to double check my IP address. So now I only have one IP address, 10.0.0.3. So the next thing I'm going to do is set my hostname. Hostname control, set hyphen hostname vm2.linux.com. Hit enter. When you set your host name, you have to resolve that host name to an IP address. Etsy host. I'm going to edit Etsy host with VI. Go to the bottom, press a lowercase o to go into insert mode below my current line. I'm going to put in my loopback address, my IPv4 loopback address, vm2.linux.com, space vm2. The long and short name. Now do the same thing for IPv6. vm2.linux, I don't know why I keep typing that .com, vm2. Press escape to get out of insert mode, :WQ to write quit. After we set the host name, reboot the machine. A point of interest. If you boot up your machine and it takes like 20 minutes to boot, most likely you're not resolving your host name to an IP. Guys, it's jammed on booting. I'm just going to power it off, power back on. That was a ACIT thing, not a Red Hat thing. Guys, just to point out, when I had to figure out this command, there's no way I can, in a million years, remember all these commands. So basically, guys, I just did a Google search of nmcli method, and I kind of looked at some of the examples. Right here is what I read. IPv4 method from auto to manual. If you put it to auto, it'll say DHCP in the file. If you put it to manual or static, it'll say none in the file. Sign in as root. And I'm referring to this file. etc/sysconfig network-scripts ifcfg ens8. Guys, I've been typing this command. I know this directory like the back of my hand because I've been doing this for so many years. Normally, up until the last couple years, I just would manually go into this file and just edit it. I can remember the contents of that file better than my kids' names. So I'm going to hit enter to show you. If you run, put this in your thing with auto after it, this will say DHCP. If you put manual or static, I know works as well through trial and error, it'll say none. If you have a static IP here, and you say bootproto equals DHCP, it'll give you two IP addresses, one dynamic and one static. So it might cause you problems. You can avoid that by always including this in this nmcli command. Guys, this network manager, here's the network manager right here. Here's the graphic interface for network manager, and this is the command line interface for the network manager. It's just used to manage your network connections. Okay, so guys, we're completely configured. I just want to do one more thing on both machines. So I'm going to ping vm2.linux.com. And it pings no problem. I'm hitting Control-C to stop ping. But if I try to ping vm1.linux.com, it's not going to be able to resolve that name to an IP. If I don't control a DNS server and I just want to use local name resolution, I need to edit the etc host file and include an entry for that machine. So I'm going to go vi etc hostname, go to the bottom, hit O to go in insert mode below my current command. Then I'm going to put the IP address for that machine, which is 0.2, and then the name of that machine. The long and the short name. So I'm resolving vm1.linux.com to 10.0.0.2, and I'm resolving vm1 to 10.0.0.2. I'm going to press escape, :WQ to right quit. Now if I ping, it'll go through, because I was able to resolve the name to the IP. I can also do the short name. So I'm going to go over and do one more thing to server 1, then this lab is done. Guys, in class, this lab will take a lot longer because I'm trying to help all of you students keep up. So sometimes when I record a lab, it's a lot shorter than when we do it in person because I'm not helping anyone. So this would probably take us 1 class period, maybe 2 class periods to get through, just because, you know, the nature of students. You're learning, you have typos, you do little things wrong. It's just the way things are. When you're at home, you get in a jam. Remember, text me, I'll connect to ACE-IT and help you through that jam. So now I'm going to try to ping VM2. Doesn't work because I'm not resolving the name. So I'm going to fix local name resolution and edit the etc host file. Go to the bottom, type O to go in insert mode below my current line. And I'm going to type in the IP for VM2, vm2.linux.com, VM2. Guys, do you see how the tabs are different here than here? Don't worry about that. That's a human thing, not a Linux thing. If there's 1 space or 300 space, it's the same to Linux. So for us, readability, yeah, it looks a little different, but for the Linux box, it's the same. So I'm resolving the long and short name for VM2 to the 10.0.0.3 IP address. So I'm going to right quit, go up, ping it again. I can see it works no problem. If I do git ent host, I can see I'm locally resolving that IP to VM2. If I go back to server 2 and do git ent host, git ent host means git entire. That's what it means. It's also good for git ent password. It will allow me to get my user account names. Sometimes you'll come across a box that's joined to a domain. If I look at the local password file, it only shows me local user accounts. But if I do git ent password, it will show me domain and local accounts, because it's getting the entire set of user accounts, local and remote. So that git ent command is very versatile. You can do git ent networks if you want it. So I'm not going to go into that too much, but git ent host will show you the contents of your etc host file. Or you could just manually cat it if you wanted. Okay, now both boxes are assigned static IPs. Both have their host name set. Both can resolve the other computer name So if we want to connect to another computer within this network, we can use a friendly name. We don't have to remember the IP. And the next thing we're going to do is start setting up open SSH servers to connect remotely to the other machines. So that's it for this lab. I'm going to upload this to YouTube.